Hi, Jacob Bock recording here from Madrid, Spain. I just wanted to share a testimony with you from what happened last week. A lot of you have been praying and supporting us for over the years, and it's just been our desire that God would really show up, and God's doing some amazing things in Spain. Last week I was preaching with an old ox yoke that I found in southern Spain, and I get a couple of my volunteers to come and they put on the yoke, and I talk about how one ox is always stronger than the other, about how one is more experienced than the other, and that when the inexperienced one wants to go a certain way, he can't because he's being controlled by the more experienced and stronger one. So I was preaching this message and comparing it how there's things in our lives that are like we're wearing a yoke in our lives, and there's things in our life like bitterness and like sexual sins and unforgiveness, alcoholism, drug addiction, a habit of lying. All these things become like a yoke upon our lives, and we just want to be able to be free from it, and we try to get away from it and we can't get away from it. And so as I stood in the street and I had my volunteers in front of me, I just looked up towards heaven and I yelled out, "Is there anybody that can free us from the yoke that so binds us?" And I got to the point in the message where I was telling the people that if they wanted to be free from the yoke, that they were going to have to repent. They were going to have to renounce their sins. They were going to have to look to Jesus, who was the only one that could break their yoke. And they were going to have to ask Him for forgiveness, and they were going to have to place their faith in Him. And that they could do that. If they were willing to turn from their sin and turn to God, God would be willing to totally set them free. And as I was talking to them like that, I mean, these people that have probably never been to a church in their life, they just stood there. And it was like they were drinking from a fountain. It was like you could see that there was hope in their eyes. And I said, well, why don't we just pray right now? We don't have to go to church to pray. So if you want prayer, if you want God to break the yoke of sin in your life, if you're willing to renounce those things and turn to Christ today, then just take your right hand and place it on your heart. And this prayer will be for you. And so I prayed for them. I prayed with them. I just look up towards heaven. I keep my eyes open and I pray for them. And when I was all done praying, I looked back across this group of 80 to 100 people, and they were just standing there. And they were like, okay, now what? Is there anything else that we should do? And so there was just hunger, such hunger. And so we had probably 20 people working with us that night, and they all had little Gospels of Luke. And so we passed out those Gospels of Luke, and people began to witness one-on-one and pray for them. And people were coming up to me, "Give me more Gospels." People are asking for Gospels. And they would come up to me and say, "Do you have another list of churches? Because people are asking for where can I go to church, and who are you people?" And there's a lot of hunger. So I just want to encourage you to keep on praying for us and keep on supporting Him. And don't get discouraged, because I'll tell you what, God is doing something great in Spain, and you guys are a part of it. So thanks a lot.